What's today, the 13th? So day 42, 43.
Okay,
Yeah, 43.
excellent. So just for the audience, for the Ultra Dad, the RFP Ultra Dads podcast today, Brian looks a little bit different because it's not Brian. Brian actually just got back to our hometown of Clark Summit last night on his third and final trip, and he's moving across country as we talked about. So to give him a break this week, I asked 22 years, a friend of 22 years, Doug Pollard. It started as a business relationship. We're colleagues at a company, and became long lost friends over the course of that time period. So, Doug, welcome to the show, man.
Cheers. Good to be here.
Thanks for being. We're grateful to have you on the show. So we were just before we hit record, we were just talking about, right now it's 12:09 on a Thursday where I live in Arizona. So I am not partaking in any alcoholic beverages or non-alcoholic beverages as Doug is now, as you can see. So, and in a fancy glass too, by the way. Very nice.
Oh, you got to do it. Man. Everything tastes better.
So we'll get on that whole beer thing momentarily.
Oh yeah, we could spend an entire podcast on that.
Yeah, exactly. Which we probably can do that at one point in time. So Doug was sharing that once a year, right? Once a year you try to do a month without any alcohol.
Yeah, I got to give the liver a break every so often, right? So give it 30 days once a year, different month every year, right? Sometimes it's sober for October and whatever, but this year decided to make it April, and yeah, so
Why April? Because you wanted to start your birthday off with a bang there?
Because I screwed up in February and then I screwed up in March. So hey, my birthday was April 1st, no joke. And said, hey, I'll enjoy a couple pops on my birthday, and then, hey, clean living for the rest of April. Got to the end of April, and I said, you might have been one of the people who inspired me on this, but I mean, a lot of people do it, but just no alcohol during Lent, right? I think, what is that, 42 days or something like that?
Something like, yeah.
So it's longer than 30. I'm like, all right, well, in the nature of racing and ultra racing and everything else, why not see if I can go an extra 12 days, right?
Interesting.
Kind of felt like I was a little bit off the habit, off the hamster wheel, and then here we are, day 43, and now it's like you set new goals. Like, all right, well, I'm here, I'm still feeling good. It's mile 80 in your term,
which nobody ever says, by the way.
No, but you're delirious at that point.
Right.
It's okay. You can tell yourself lies, and it's okay. No, so yeah, so now it's like, all right, well, certainly I can complete May. What if I just maybe even extend that a little bit into June, finish like, rec league softball season or something else, right? So we'll see where it goes.
Well, that's you should be proud of that, because that's significant. 30, well, you're at 30 plus now. You're actually probably at 42, right? Right now?
Yeah. And if anybody knew how huge of a beer nerd I am, this has been a challenge.
Well, we could touch on that. We could kind of start things off with that. But I wanted to start not this past week. So May 1st May 1st was going to be my day.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm in a situation where, I was consuming great amount of beer, but I was also running 50 to 60 miles a week, so it compensated a lot for the alcohol content. But with the knee injury and being out for the last 6 weeks.
So what did you do? I heard a little bit on a previous podcast a couple of weeks ago. Are you really debilitated? Are you like a brace and stuff, or?
No, fortunately not. So back in February, I did a 50 miler, and everything was fine. Everything was good. And then the week after, I was walking the dog, and I just felt this harsh pinch, pain, burning sensation in my left knee, right on the inside, right where the kneecap is. Mm-hmm. Never really felt like that pain before. I mean, during a race or anything, even during training, I would feel it, but it would usually be either in the back of the knee or under the kneecap. This was right on the inner side, in the inner right side of my left knee. So I kind of chilled out for a few days, and then I started running back up and taking it easy, and that went for a couple weeks, and then it happened again. So I called the doctor that our oldest went to when she messed up her elbow. And long story short, I have torn cartilage right on the inside of my left knee, where all the pressure goes when you land.
Got it. Okay.
So plus I have a bunch of other bursitis, arthritis, and all sorts of nonsense from 20, 30 years of doing what I've done to my body. So I got it injected with gel and took 3 shots of that. And I basically took the whole month off of April of running. I was, swimming and lifting and doing yoga and stretching, all whole month off of running for April. May 1st, I started back, seeing if I could start back. I think I made it a mile running where it was just still painful. Long story short, right now I'm going every other day, walk the dog for like 2 miles, and then I run for 3 miles, and it's holding up. We're making progress with it. So the whole point, so now, I put on some pounds. I'm kind of bulkier because I've been lifting twice as more as I have been, or I was. So I was like, I gotta cut back. I gotta cut back the beer. So I made it like 6 days, and then last Friday, Robin and I got like free rooms up in Vegas, and I'm like, want to go to Vegas? Sure, let's go. So we went, and needless to say, I drank some beer in Vegas over the weekend, but we'll see how it goes. And I was going to tell you, you're going to try to go to June.
This is on record. You're not supposed to like share what happens in Vegas. Otherwise, you're clean, right? You got to clean.
You can, if those that know me are going to pretty much assume, it's not even an assumption, it's a guarantee that if I went to Vegas, it's likely I had at least a beer. So, but just to give you a heads up, we're gonna be in Philly in June. So you later part of June, we'll circle back on the dates, but I plan on getting together for at least a lunch or a happy hour where we'll take down a beer. But
definitely,
that's kind of where I'm at with that injury. So we're trying to piece that together, just like everything in life right now, trying to piece it together. So, but let's go to the beer thing, because I remember when we were living back there, we met a few times at these just really inconspicuous places that you just pulled up on some app or some website that you're like, here, meet me here because they have these kind of beers. So why don't you talk about that? Because you had the little side gig going on too that you tried to start. So why don't you talk a little bit about your passion for beer and following it?
Yeah, no, it's like got started into weird different beers probably as early as college, back before there was really craft beer, right? And then we got out of college, and it was mid '90s. There really still wasn't much. Sierra Nevada kind of hit me over the head, like, wow, what is this? And so just started exploring, and that constant search for something new, right? And then just morphed into the next thing I know, beeradvocate.com gets created, allows you to rate beers. I got super into it, right? And, I was like the go-to guy that people were calling from the beer store going, what should I pick up? I'm like, I don't know. What's in front of you?
Right.
So anyway, it did morph into, I briefly considered during a challenging period in my career, starting off, branching off on my own, starting a business. When I say briefly, I mean, I had a business plan. I had a liquor license ready to go, ready to purchase. I had a partner who was like a chef, and what was going to be, it was starting off, the first idea was create a craft beer store. This is like back, again, '09 timeframe, back before craft beer had really exploded. So a dedicated craft beer store with draft lines with growlers to go, long lines of coolers, everything organized by style of beer, because I'm really into all the different styles, especially Belgian styles, and just super passionate about it. And came down to the fact that to do all this needed about a $400K loan. Brought that to Rhonda.
Rhonda is his wife, folks. Rhonda is his wife.
Is it okay if we take the mortgage and we just use that as collateral? And we were just having our third child at the time, too.
Right.
Didn't know anything. and the economy was in the crapper. So it was like, maybe now's not the best time. So had to park that plan, morphed it into, well, why don't I take all my knowledge and great resources that I have and create a website, a business. And you know, Chris Cook, Chaz Bionis, who you and I worked with back in the day, back in the 90s, were helping me set that up, from graphics to website to other things. And then going out to local establishments, places that had a license, but were just selling garbage beer, like a pizza place or a place that had room to grow, and talk about the profitability they could be, you know, leveraging, talk about all the new customers they could be bringing in if they were able to advertise this as a, here's what makes our pizza place different from the 10 other places within 3 miles of here. Yeah, that kind of stuff. And pushed through with that. Called it Gateway Beers, you know, gatewaybeers.com. And we had a beer finder on our website, and then a beer tasting thing on our website. It was really intricate, where, hey, what do you like? Do you like sweeter beers? Do you like hoppier beers? Do you like stuff that's a little bit more on the bitter side? You know, what kind of flavor profiles do you generally like? And then we pick out, you know, the top 3 to 5 styles that you might really like. And then within those styles, what are the top 10 beers that you can get here in Pennsylvania that, you know, match that style that you're probably going to like? And then, you know, just kind of went from there, but never really got that off the ground, right? It was like most of the time it was met with these pizza store owners who are like, what do I need that for? I sell plenty of beer. I make enough money. I'm fine. I don't need all the hassle. You know,
I
so
have my Bud Light and Miller Lite. Everybody's happy.
my customers don't want that fancy stuff. Okay, well, I was a little ahead of the curve on that, but yeah, that's all right.
Everybody has it now.
It all worked out in the end, right? So everything happens for a reason. But I was glad I had that opportunity to at least explore it, dip my toe in the water, and not lose my house or, you know, something else. You know, it was kind of a fun outlet during a period when like work was like slow and boring, you know, and I had time on my hands to do that kind of stuff, even though we, you know, three little kids. I say time on my hands. I mean, I had a couple hours every night that I could squirrel away in the man cave with a couple of beers and work on the business plan.
What was Sierra Nevada your first craft beer?
Yeah. I distinctly remember being at like a happy hour and driving home after having like 2 Sierra Nevadas and burping. It was like, wow, that tastes amazing. That burp tasted amazing. And then I went immediately to the beer yard in Wayne, picked up a case, and the rest is history. So it was just like one of those stupid memories that somehow sticks in your brain, you know?
Now I have a memory of, I don't know, maybe it would be considered a craft beer. You and I, it was that trip we took to San Francisco for that conference. Rhonda met us out there.
Back in 99, right?
That was probably 90. Yeah, that was 1999. Yeah, exactly. And we were at the conference all day, and we met Rhonda at the bar at the hotel for a pop before we were going to dinner, and we had Anchor Steam.
Okay.
And would that be considered a craft beer at the time?
Back then in 99, absolutely.
Yeah, right. So because I'm thinking, because the whole Sierra Nevada, I was having this conversation with 3 other people in the last, no shit, Doug, like the last 3 weeks, I was having the same conversation with 3 other people, and Sierra Nevada was the first craft beer that they had. But I guess Anchor Steam might have been the first craft beer that we had.
They preceded them. And then, of course, the whole California beer explosion. Stone is still one of my favorites today, man. They don't produce a bad IPA, so it's yeah.
That's my go. It's Stone and Trogs are like,
oh yeah,
like right here. You know, Robin's asking me how many cases of Trogs are we bringing back, because we're driving back.
Serious?
Yeah. So
How'd you do that?
Cause we're gonna be there for like 3 weeks, and
oh, okay.
You know, it gives us more flexibility, and then cost, right? Because we're going to re-rent a car for 3 weeks. I mean, so it just made sense. Plus, I get the opportunity to get copious amounts of Trogs and Yingling Lager to bring back to Arizona that may or may not last through the summer.
Yeah, you got a little hitch on the back of your car. You can hook up the U-Haul to it.
No. Well, the thing is, Robin and I are going or driving by ourselves out.
Oh, and you're gonna spare the girls the agony of driving with you across the country.
Well, one girl is coming back with us. The Elena's, the younger one's coming back with us. So, but we have a couple. We're going to try to hit a couple stadiums. We're going to try to hit Pittsburgh and see the Pirates play, and then the week after 4th of July, the Cubs and the Phillies are playing at Chicago. So we're trying to get in to see a Cubs Phillies game. So
Have you been to both those parks?
we have, I have, and Robin has. Elena's been to Pittsburgh, so
Okay.
it
Cool.
should be fun. So back to the beer conversation. I'll ask this and we can move on. This is a tough question, right? But what has been your favorite? I'm not going to say beer. I'll say how many ever you want to list. You can take the top 3 beers you've ever had.
Jeez. I usually list something in the Belgian category. Like I really love triples. I tend to gravitate toward the higher gravity beers. Triples are probably my favorite style, and so in that regard, West Mall. So if you can get a West Mall, get it. Similarly, Allagash makes a very, very good triple that you can get in most states, right?
Right.
Saison side, I tend to lean toward DuPont, and DuPont also has a higher caliber Saison, like approaching like 10%, which is unusual, called Avec les Bon Beaux. I think I'm pronouncing that right. But that's just an outstanding one. But anything, if you see anything from DuPont, just get it. There's only a couple beers from them. And I remember like, just back in the day, like, oh, if you could have one beer the rest of your life that's just kind of basic and normal. It was a Trogs. I think it was like a Trogs. Oh shoot, why am I forgetting the name of it right now? It was like an amber ale. But now there's just like so much, man. There's just so much. Like you can't even like part of my problem was I would go to the beer store these days, and it's like there's 15 new like just New England style IPAs.
Mm-hmm.
Forget everything else. And if I knew a particular brewery was a particularly good one and I liked them before, chances are I'm going to like their styles, right? So I can really quickly bypass a lot of stuff that I'm like, yeah, I don't like their style, don't like their yeast profile, whatever. And I'll just head toward maybe something new and try it out. But the beautiful thing is you can get everything in 4-packs now. So it's
right.
You can try a million different things and you'll spend some money.
Well, I mean, you're getting a 4-pack for $15 in some places. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes 11. I'm a big fan of Mother Road out here.
Yeah.
And it's Mother Road's Tower Station IPA is probably one of my top 3 or 4 favorite IPAs. And they sell them in 4-packs for like, well, it depends where you get it, but if you go to Total Wine, it's like $11. And they're 16 ounces. Don't get me wrong. So, but it's not terrible. But
it's like that affordable luxury, is what they say,
Right. Well, I went to the store and I was checking out with the Lagunitas non-alcoholic, and then they have a God, what is it?
This bad boy.
That one, and then they had, I want to say it was Omission.
Oh yeah. Well, that's they have gluten free, right? Omission.
They have. Was it gluten free or was it non-alcoholic?
I'm pretty sure that their stuff is all.
In any event, the Lagunitas was like $11. I'm like, I don't mind paying $11 for a 6-pack, but not $11 for a non-alcoholic 6-pack. Like, come on, man.
Come on.
But the Athletic Brewing, that is some really good stuff.
Yeah, because I mentioned that. Yeah, I mean, and I just tried their hazy IPA, New Wave or something like that.
Yeah, it's a red can.
Yeah, it's like an orange can. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's really, really, really good. I couldn't even, in all honesty, I couldn't even tell the difference between that and a
Yeah. I mean, the biggest difference for me is that the non-alcoholic beers tend to be thin, and I'm not a big thin beers. I'm bigger, and like I said, mentioned higher gravity, higher alcohol beers, a little more body to them, a little more malt. These tend to be thinner. Like, so if you like pale ales, like for folks who like pale ales and basic lower alcohol beers for the most part, it's a really easy transition into some really good. I mean, there's so much good non-alcoholic stuff now.
So let's transition, because you had mentioned kids a couple times,
Yeah.
and you have the three. So let's talk about fatherhood. I mean, this is Ultra Dads, and it's all thing ultra. We just kind of did some ultra beer talking. So Andrew's the oldest, right?
Yeah, he's a senior this year, 17, heading off into the world. No, he's staying here. Yeah, so he's 17. I got Lily, 15, and then Avery, who's 11. They're all, going up one age this summer, but yeah, so it'll be 18, 16, 12. So yeah.
So, because when we met, and it was 98, 99 when we started working together, I think you and Rana had been married a couple, probably, I want to say 5 years.
No, we've been together for that amount of time, but not married until 98.
Okay, so you had just gotten married when we
We met
started
in
working
college.
together.
Yeah, we met in college, did the long distance thing for a while. She moved up, and then yeah.
Right. And so now you guys are what, 24 years, 23 years?
Ooh, coming up on 23. Yeah. Wow. This fall.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, well, because there's two components of this conversation, because I want to dive into. I want to dive into the fatherhood concept, and then the being a husband,
Yep.
and there being married for 23 years. I mean, that's a gift right now. That you don't see that often anymore. So, and I know, speaking from someone that's been married for 18 years, it's 19 years. Sorry, Robin. It's not all easy, obviously. So what have been some of the hardest struggles that you guys have went through, and the lessons, the growth that you've gotten from it? We'll start with the marriage side of the fence first.
Yeah. We're both very much A-type personalities. So problem number one, we both want to believe that we're right about everything, and we both want to control everything. And I hate to admit that I'm loose with my money, and she is the controller of this house, right? And I want to buy things, like I like the shiny new car, and I like stuff. And that's just, she's like, I'm like, hey, your car's 5 years old, and it's time to just hit 100,000 miles. Isn't it about time we got rid of it so it doesn't start need a new transmission or something? She's like, no, we're gonna run it into the ground because I have no car payment, and you're gonna do the same. It's like every couple, it's the monetary, like, even though you might have the funds, you have the money to do things, it's like that little bit of a spat, a little argument of what should we actually spend the money on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, I mean, look, I'm staring straight in the face of 3 kids going to college in the next 6 years. 5 years? Yeah. So yeah. And we've saved a little bit, right? But now is like that period when I got to have the foot on the gas pedal at work, because I'm in sales. It's a huge part of I can have a really nice uplift if I have outstanding years, right? And I can set that aside without having to have huge loans. And that's really the focus right now, is to make sure that I'm there. But yeah, finances is definitely one big challenge, and I think so. Other than that, I think the other challenges are just, once you're together for so long, it's just the communication, trying to keep the communication fresh.
Mm.
I feel like you can read each other's minds half the time, and you kind of have a feel before you even walk in the room what the tone is, right? So what to joke about, what not to joke about, and I think that's I would trip over myself probably the first 10 years of marriage, just like just in my communication style, and meaning like not what's coming out of my mouth, but what's coming in the ears.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just not doing it enough, and certainly not doing enough active listening, like not only stopping talking, but looking and truly listening, and putting all other noise aside, which is hard to do
Sure.
today. Phones and TV and 3 kids and a dog, and
Well, you talk about a couple things there, right? Because you talk about distraction, right? There's so many things these days that pull our attention, not just kids and careers and and the athletics, the events that we do, side hustles that we might be doing. But then you combine that with, and you touched on this, you've been married for over 2 decades, right? And we tend to get comfortable, right? As individuals as well as humans, and as well as couples. And what have you been able to do to help move past that staleness, if you will? And that might not be the best word to use, but creating being more creative in the relationship to inject some more excitement, or inject some more creativity to maybe make things a little bit better, or make you both grow a little bit.
Yeah, I wish I could. That's a tough one to answer because I can't point to specific things. Like we're not that couple that sets the dedicated date night once every month, right? And oftentimes when even if there's a special event, like whether it's Mother's Day, her birthday, something else, it's often met with, yeah, but if we go out, we're gonna be waiting in line, and I'd much rather just stay here and cook some steaks or something, And you can find it, you kind of fall into that complacency. We really need to get better about that. The other side of the coin is too, we're also we don't like do vacations together, like just the two of us. It's always something with the kids, right? And and that's something that kind of thinking about, like how can we do that? And now fortunately we're sort of being forced into that this year with I made President's Club at my company last year. That trip, which is normally in the spring, they pushed back to the fall. It's in Mexico, so that'll be like at least 5 days, and she and I can just be checked out of the home situation and be away. And so definitely looking forward to that. Outside of that, I think there's no real secrets other than to try to keep things light. Levity. I tend to have a sarcastic persona a lot of the times, and try to make light of certain things. And I'm not short on dad jokes and things, so it's I just do it just to get a reaction right out of the kids, out of her, but
Right.
Just trying to keep it fun, right? Just trying to keep it interesting. Just trying to keep it creative.
You're going to your dad jokes. I
don't have like the set jokes. I can't remember a joke in my life.
No, I get that. You're a lot like me in the family. Now, there's 4 in your audience per se, right? Are there those that encourage the dad jokes, if you will, and are there others that are like, no?
Yeah, I think so. My oldest daughter, 15, she puts up with it, the most, and she'll encourage. She and I are more like-minded, I think.
Okay.
So she'll put up with it, and of course my youngest has no choice because she's riding in the car with me for about what seems like almost an average of like 45 minutes a day, back and forth with softball and stuff. So I've gotten to the point where I just listen to like podcasts now with her in the car, and
okay. And does she have a phone yet?
Well, sort of and sort of not. Not one that can actually be launching calls, but she can do FaceTime and she can get messages on the phone.
Okay, so when you're listening to the podcast, is she?
Yeah. She's probably playing it. Well, she doesn't. It doesn't. Fortunately, it's one of these old phones that has a battery life of like 30 minutes. So
right.
She doesn't usually take it with her, so she's stuck with me and looking out the window and talking to me.
So let's go to the kids. Let's go to the fatherhood. And like for me, and I think I've shared this with you before, one of the biggest struggles that I have, and I continue to have, and I'm getting better at it, is kind of letting them go. Now, I got a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. It's very similar, exact same ages as you. I mean, Andrew's a year ahead of Isabella, but it was the whole concept of letting them go, letting them fail, letting them be independent and choose their own path. That has gotten better. But then there's been other times where, especially with Elena and I, had some struggles. And I think we still do much less than we used to, because we're very, very similar, incredibly similar. So we bat heads a lot. And I think over the years, with the communication and with sitting down with each other and explaining to each other, some of the things you may do or some of the things you may say, and how I take that and how I interpret that and how that makes me feel. Being able to communicate that and broaden our relationship. Now, her being 15, what used to be more of a challenge because we're the same person, we're very, very much alike. So she's the one that gets my jokes, and I'm the one that gets her jokes. And we're the ones that are laughing, and Robin and Isabella are looking at us like, guys are
We're
assholes.
really looking at these immature
Right.
people.
So what has been some, with all three of them, but I'm interested to hear, and for the audience, so what are some of the challenges and growth that you've experienced having the three of them, and then the difference between the boy and the girls?
Yeah, yeah. So this year's been a real struggle with my son, who's a senior now, right? Because especially if I spent any time on Facebook or Instagram, and you just can't help but see your friends from back in the day and all their kids and how they're so well adjusted. And my kid just got into every Ivy League school, and my kid just got the lacrosse scholarship. And here's a picture of us at VodTech where we just got accepted. And Andrew is super smart, but zero work ethic, right? And it drives me nuts. If I spend 10 minutes a day not doing something productive, I lose it. Like, I got to be doing something all the time. Like, there's no sitting down watching. Like, I don't understand who these people are who can have binge Netflix. Like, I can't even sit down long enough to read a chapter in a book. So it's like, I am constantly on the move. If I'm, and the way I look at it from a sales mentality is, if I'm not doing something that's helping me make money right now, I'm losing money.
Mhm.
Right? And I guess that's just been ingrained in me that, that's, part of my purpose, part of my why is to create a better, future for my children, yada, yada. And then here's a kid who he could show up for 5 minutes of a class and ace an exam, but he can't even bother to show up for 5 minutes of a class because it's virtual now. Why should he? Right. And so now he calculated in about the middle of this year what he needs is a bare minimum just to get his degree, just to get his diploma. And so now he literally has classes with zeros. And it's like the nonstop nasty grams from teachers, from guidance counselors. We're trying to help. We're trying to help you, Andrew. We're reaching out to you. It's just so frustrating to us as parents, both of us. And I
Sure.
can't say how many angry sessions we've had, just they turn into just like screaming sessions, like, just, dude, get it together. And finally, we had a breakthrough yesterday. He finally applied to his first college, local school, part of Penn State. So great, and I think once he finds what his passion is, what his purpose is, he'll get there. He just probably needs a little bit more time to get there. And I've seen this with a lot of other parents of when their firstborn is a boy in particular, that level of maturity isn't quite there with a lot of other people in their class who might have older siblings or who might have a first child who's a girl. It's the strangest thing, but it feels like I see that more and more and more, where boys have a hard time acclimating the maturity level, not the education level, but the maturity level. Because pediatricians and preschool were like, no, you need to put him in kindergarten now, like 4 years old, 5 years old, like right away, don't wait. And hindsight is we perhaps made a little bit of a mistake there, and maybe should have held him back a little bit, knowing what we know today, right?
Sure. Well, there's that. I've seen that with some of my other friends that have the first child as a boy, and there's a little bit. It seems to me there's a little bit of a delay in the maturity.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: so how did you guys navigate that? Because you don't want to sit back and kind of let them figure that out, right? There's got to be something, and especially now it's a poignant year, right? It's what do you want to do next? But you touched on it, right? You touched on he just has to figure it out. He just has to figure out what it is he wants to do, who he wants to become. So
Yeah,
how are you navigating that?
Yeah, we've learned over time that you can't tell him what to do, or even, necessarily in some cases ask him what to do. He makes his own decisions, and he doesn't like to be told, the right way to do things. He likes to figure things out on his own, whether it's, from trying to coach him in baseball at a younger age to schoolwork or whatever. Or, so it's like it's almost like an old sales quote, people are best convinced by reasons they discover themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's him. He's only convinced by things he discovers himself and through his own interactions that he can believe in and get behind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's passionate about things like, gaming, right? He's passionate, and I started to see a little bit of a twist toward interest in information security, which is a massive, massive market right now. So perhaps that is where he finds his calling, right? He's passionate about building computers. He built his own computer and has, reworked it and tweaked it. And, he's real proud of the fact that he spent a third of what he would have spent if he bought it off the shelf.
Wow,
right? So
that's impressive.
That's encouraging in that regard. And so again, at some point you do have to kind of cut the reins and stop letting them know how to live their lives and what they should be doing. And maybe college isn't the right thing for him, and that's okay,
Yeah.
right? Just ignore what we grew up as, which is do really well in high school, get into a good college, get your degree, perhaps get a secondary degree, move on from there. It was all nicely prescribed and spelled out, but that's not necessarily the path anymore for a lot of kids. Realizing that I don't need to spend 70 grand a year and have these massive loans hanging over my head till I'm 40,
Right.
For a silly piece of paper, when perhaps it's more, when I'm missing out on an opportunity to chase a passion that I really care
Right.
about.
And now's the time to do it, right? When they're at that age, because you touched on it. We were programmed to high school, do well in high school, college, picket fence, all that nonsense. And not that I'm not grateful for my career and the road that I chose to go on, but there are you touched on, right? You have a passion in beer, right? So you had that little side hustle there. I had passion in coaching and mentoring and fitness and all that stuff. So there's all these side things going on. But if we kind of figured this stuff out in our mind when we were 16 or 17 years old, where could we have been at that point? Where could we have been now? All that being said, I don't regret any decision I've ever made, because I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. And if I made one decision differently, I wouldn't have all what I have. And I can't complain and I can't bitch and moan about that. But the lessons I've learned through that process is communicating that to the girls and other people that I have the opportunity to meet with and say, hey, listen, when you're 15, 16, 17, even into your early 20s, now's the time to chase those passions, because if you don't chase those passions, you're going to be stuck in a career for 20 years that you might not be getting any joy and fulfillment. You might be friggin' good at it because you've been doing it for 20 years, but you might not find any joy and passion in it.
You got to explore. And so, yeah. And so I think with each child, you look at, how can I support them in their development in a little different way. And for my middle child, Lily, she is extremely independent. Like, I don't have to do a single thing for her, never have to ask her to do a chore. She just does them, right? She just gets her work done. She gets on the bus on time. She does all her homework. She busts her butt. And, you don't have to worry about it. She's a set it and forget it child, right? So feed her and then she's good. And so I feel like more comfortable, letting her, without having to giving her any prescription of perhaps how we should think she should be, she should grow up or move on. My third one, a little bit of a mix of both, right? And she tends to gravitate toward a lot of the behaviors and attitudes that Andrew does. So she tends to be like, taking the path of YouTube videos over homework, but she is all in on softball, which I love.
That's cool.
And I'm like, I coached 2 teams for her. That's become my new sort of passion at this point in my life, which is not just coaching her and being with her 5 nights a week during the spring, summer, fall, but also just understanding that what I'm doing, especially when it comes to rec league, is helping to encourage a lot of girls who are in that maybe 10 to 12-year-old stage, which is really quite critical, pre-adolescent or adolescent, whatever, preteen, giving them confidence that they can do something they didn't previously think they could do. And it could be as simple as teaching a girl how to pitch or how to be a catcher, or they never thought that they could do a particular position. They never thought they could hit the ball into the outfield. Simple stuff like that, right? And just kind of working with them and coaching them, giving them the confidence and letting them know that no matter what they do, and then one of the things I said to the rec team before the start of the season is I'm really looking forward to an undefeated season, girls. Like, what do you mean? We're not going to lose any games? I'm like, no, we either win games or we learn from them, right? So, and when we lose a game, we kind of cover off what are the lessons learned in that game. What could you, perhaps do better yourself, or what can we do as a team better? How could us as coaches support you better? And you win, it's a little bit more of a chance you can still do some of that stuff, but it's then more of a chance to celebrate. Wow, Emma had 3 hits today, double, triple, drove in like 5 runs, like that kind of stuff, where you can kind of really celebrate some of those accomplishments. But anyway, so I find a lot of joy in that. I've done, half of my career, half of my 25 years have been spent doing like sales leadership type roles, and half as like a rep, individual contributor. And I really do kind of miss that coaching element of being a sales leader, coaching teams, helping people find a path to an ultimately wise decision. And so I manifest what I, perhaps miss a little bit in that regard with, hey, can I do it on the softball field, or do it with these people who are these young ladies who are very, very impressionable. And then you see a lot of them coming into the rec league like a baby deer, like just big open eyes, like scared, like, and how can I turn that into like a warrior on the softball field in 2 months?
Right.
Ready to say, hey, I can't wait to try out for the tournament team, or I can't wait to join. Hey, can you tell me more about the travel team that you and Avery are on? Right, stuff like that, where you start to see that fire and that confidence being built at a young age too, and they're going to take it beyond there into
Sure.
parts of life. And so I kind of take that as being something I'm really into right now, and I'm applying what I've learned in my past of playing baseball and softball for many years to helping them.
That's a cool point, because we touched on how our generation was taught to get the education and blah blah blah. You spend 20 years doing something that you got really good at doing because you invested the time to do it, but you might have not been happy doing it. So there's always you have options, right? You could quit and make that jump to a new career, but when you're in your 40s and 50s, it's a hell of a lot more challenging than when you're in your 20s, because you have the mortgage, you have the kids going to school, you have life that you've built and created. But there's other outlets, there's other ways to do it. You could become a coach or a mentor to folks within your organization. You could find a coach, you could find a true coaching job where you're coaching kids or coaching adults, whatever the case may be in athletics. For me, it was getting people out on the trails and getting people moving around there. It's for me, it's investing in my girls, taking all this stuff that I've been learning, and it started with them, and then it came to publishing it here with the blog, with the podcast, and just getting this information out. So we collectively, you're part of this team now, collectively getting the messages out to everybody, and it's, we're not sitting here doing like a Tony Robbins type of thing. We're my audience, our audience is us, is the exception.
You got me thinking just now, it's like there's so many different ways you can apply it. Like I think back to like 7-8 years ago when I got into obstacle course racing and started doing Spartan races, and like just how many people I shared that passion with and how they got really into it. And next thing I know, there's like a Philly Spartan group on Facebook, and with a bunch of people who I used to run with and stuff. So it's just, there's so many different outlets when you can kind of apply what you're passionate about, but also something that benefits others. And so it's almost endless. You got to keep doing that.
Well, let's transition into that, because Brian and I talk on here a lot about what we've done, and we've had other people on here talk about what they've done. And you've been an athlete for the majority of your life, from what I've remembered, and then you went into the OCR business, or the OCR sport, craft, whatever you want to call it, or activity. So what what led to that 6, 7, 8 years ago? What kind of got you there? And talk about your journey through that process up until today.
Yeah. So I think it probably started when I hit 40, and a lot of us have that like, oh crap moment. You turn 40 and it's like, what's happening to me? And then a couple years, so I made a commitment to starting doing like was it Tony Horton Beachbody stuff and Insanity and all those things. And those were all nice and well and good and different from my usual workouts and running routine. Well, I mean, I'd been running, I would do like 10-mile races and half marathons and stuff. Nothing crazy, one marathon in the past. But then I think it was somebody at work, a guy who was maybe a couple years older than me, who was talking about this amazing race, the Spartan race he did in Virginia, and how he threw a spear. He had to throw a spear, and all these crazy obstacles. I'm like, okay, I've been thinking about this for like the last 6 to 12 months. I've been hearing about this. I got to sign up. Did it in 2013 for the first time at Palmerton at Blue Mountain in Pennsylvania. Amazing, amazing venue, and I know just countless people who have cut their teeth on OCR with that race in particular, the sprint version. And just went all in. When you find something you like and you just kind of, everything drops and you go all in on it.
Mm-hmm.
That was me, at least the first 3 years of that. 13, 14, 15, 16, until I got a really, really tough ankle injury in 17, not from racing, but from training. And
Right.
and then I was doing 15 plus OCRs every year. There was Spartan race. There was Battle Frog, Bone Frog, which still exists. I kind of avoided Tough Mudder until a couple years ago, just because it wasn't as competitive, I think. Wasn't as military style as I was into. But yeah, driving to Ohio, to Virginia, to Boston, to Vermont, doing the beast up in Vermont in 2014 was like life-changing. And I didn't have a community around me of people doing it. I was, for the most part, doing it on my own. Drive up there on my own, do the race, see, a few people I would see online, right? But that was it, and then get in the car and come back home. And since that point, I've managed to recruit a couple of my really good friends to start doing it as well with me. And that's been much more, I guess, rewarding, if you will, to be able to finish something extremely challenging with someone who you never thought would have gotten into OCR. Right.
Yeah.
So, but I just love the whole element, because I'm like, I don't have a runner's body. I'm probably, I'll say 220 now. I'm a Clydesdale, right?
But you're also what, 6'2"?
Yeah. So yeah. But my point is, like, the knees, like, they don't handle the marathon stuff,
Right.
perhaps as well as some people. And I think I'm a little bit, in having worked with a chiropractor for the last 7, 8 years, I'm perhaps not necessarily naturally aligned, if you will. And so things tend to go out of alignment more, and knee tend to go out, or ankle tends to go out a lot more than some. And I wanted for so long in that period of like maybe 42 to 45 years old to be like Mikey Baldini, running 50 milers or 100-miler. And I thought, I really want to get into this ultra stuff, and I want to do an ultra beast at Spartan. And I think I finally came into reality that perhaps that's not my calling.
Well, I appreciate that, but I don't know how to respond to that other than that I'm not right in the head, and Brian's not right in the head, and a lot of us that do these things are definitely not right in the head. But
you do it for a reason, right? You do it to prove something to yourself, to perhaps prove something to your family, to you talk about slaying demons, right? There's something that you're trying to get over, get past, get through, right? And you're doing it and channeling it in a way that's productive to yourself, your body, to others, right? It's not like a lot of destructive things we could be doing to get through those.
Absolutely. It's an addictive passion, definitely. And I would probably disagree with you to a point where it is not as destructive as obviously drugs and alcohol and other things of that nature. But I'm sitting here 6 weeks into this whole situation, so it does play its role. But there is a passion to it. There is a purpose to it, and it's you have the same story. It's for me, the whole ultra endurance, ultra marathon experience it's obviously I didn't know it going into it, and I probably didn't realize it to a couple years after it, but it's a metaphor for life. You touched on it earlier in the conversation. You hit that mile 80 and you're like, what the heck is going on? Where am I? What do I have to do? And
Am I really paying for this? Oh my God.
exactly. I mean, do I need to get to that next, I'm 3/4 of the way through this thing. I got another X miles to go and X number of events to go. I'm exhausted. I don't, and then you just say, you know what? You come back and let's just get to the next event, or let's just get to the next aid station. And with life, it's the same thing. We get bombarded and punched in the face and kicked while we're down. And what are we supposed to do? Well, you know what? Just get up and make it to the next aid station. Get up and make it to the next event. That's all we got to do. The next obstacle. And that's what we're trying to do here, is get that message out there, is that it's relentless forward progress. It's if we keep moving,
Yes.
and the movement isn't, that straight line. The movement is, but as long as you keep moving forward or keep moving up, you're going to end up getting there. It's not going to work out the way you wanted it to. It's not going to be in the timeline that you wanted it to. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be incredibly messy, and you're going to be scarred and beat up when you get to the end of it. But you're going to have a pretty cool story to tell, I guarantee you. And that's kind of what I think you're learning through this process, not only with the obstacle coursing, but family in general.
Yeah. It's sort of like you look at the stock market charts, you look at the last 5 years, what has it generally done? Up and to the right. But there was a huge blip in March of 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're right now in that huge blip phase, right? But you're going to come out of it just fine because you are resilient like the stock market. You're going to continue to do the right things to get yourself back.
It's interesting you bring that up, because that's my belief and that's my faith. But I'm not going to lie to you. There's days when I'm, last week, even yesterday, or what's today? Thursday, right? So I ran Tuesday, Wednesday, I wake up with this knot in my calf in the same leg. And I'm like, whoa, this is interesting. What's next? What's next? So and then, you go through the process and you go out for a run, and today's run didn't feel as good as yesterday's run, or today's business meeting didn't feel as great as yesterday's business meeting, and I should have said this but I didn't say it, and so on and so forth. So that
spiraling negative emotions is bringing you down, and you got to pull yourself out of that negative spiral.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the question of what if, and I'm not going to lie to you. There's been thoughts in the last couple of weeks about what if I'm not able to do these things anymore, and there's a moment of, well, shit, that's going to suck. But then there's a moment of acceptance, and there's a moment of, well, there's going to be something else that I find. It's just that's the way we are as a culture, as a society, as a human being. We find another passion to, like what you're doing with softball. You hit it right on the head. You're starting to take that, and that's awareness, right? That's being able to take that awareness and pour it into, well, listen, I'm not going to be able to get it over here, and I accept it. But what if I could dive in deeply here and do it? And you're a perfect example of that right now with softball.
Yeah, as long as you're contributing and benefiting and doing something valuable to yourself and to your family and to those around you. I mean, that's the upward, up and to the right.
Yep.
Always have to be the same.
I want to be conscious of your time, and I appreciate you staying on. But I have like 3 more quick questions that I typically try to ask everybody, and we'll start with this one. So what is out there still that you're chasing?
What is out there still that I'm chasing? I'd probably say probably an early retirement, because I think, I look at it as, do I really want to do that? I could probably set myself financially up to do that and really enjoy life during the healthy years, right? And spend that time with Rhonda that perhaps we haven't spent the last 17 years that we should have, right? At the same time, it's like, well, but can I actually walk away from this, right? I have trouble taking a week-long vacation
Sure.
without being checked in for a couple hours every morning before the whole family wakes up, Sure.
Sure.
So yeah, so that's probably, that's a little bit more forward looking, and probably on the almost nearly 10-year horizon. But hey, 10 years goes by quickly. So
It does, especially now. It seems like this last year and a half went by smoking fast. Um, I'm going to go with the more serious one, and then we'll close it on well, I don't know what the answer is going to be on the last one, but it usually is for most people funny. So the serious one is, what makes you come alive?
what makes me come alive? Boy, geez, that's a good question. Achieving, like, feeling like I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing, whether it's doing a high intensity interval training session, and 30 minutes in, I'm feeling like I conquered the world, like even after a crushing session, or whether it's at work, like having an extremely busy day, but walking away at the end of the day going, I just made a material impact to my quarter, to my year, in this past just 3 hours worth of time. So what I'm trying to say is, not just putting forth the hard work and effort, but seeing that there is going to be a result
Mm.
from what I just put myself through, whether it's mentally or physically, or in the coaching world, like you're not going to win every game, but you can see that your team's on the right path now. So anyway, just seeing results. I guess summing up results, like knowing, and maybe not already achieving, not already winning the championship, not already crushing the quarter at work, but just knowing that you're on the right path and what you're doing right now is having a material impact. Because what I hate, and I mentioned this before, is lack of productivity, or doing things that are, time sucks. I can't stand time sucks. As much as I am good at golf and can play golf, it's 5 hours I could be doing something better. Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, but you are growing on a golf course. You are learning. There's patience involved. Tons of patience that you have to learn through golfing.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, and that's something I have 100% learned over the past 20 years, it does you no good to throw that club in the lake.
No, or break it, or
It's
anything else with it.
live for the next shot, as I tell my girls, live for the next pitch, live for the next shot,
That's perfect. That's the other metaphor, right? It's the other metaphor. Forget what just happened and go to the next aid station, go to the next obstacle, go to the next pitch, go to the next meeting. That's great.
Yeah, you lost that, no big deal. Move on to the next one. Could be better.
Last one. Something most people don't know about you.
Oof, something most people don't know about me. What's new, interesting, different about Doug? Most people. I'm into metal.
You what?
I'm into metal music.
Oh, you into metal?
I'm not passionate about it, like with other things in life. But
Yeah,
you
I
wouldn't
remember that.
you wouldn't look at me and be like, that guy's been to 10 Slayer shows in the past decade, or he likes Lamb of God and Pantera. More old school, like 90s.
Yeah.
But and partly because I played in the metal band in high school, and we were the first metal band to ever play at our high school variety show or whatever, and scared the crap out of people playing some Metallica back in the day. But yeah.
I think I had that reaction when you told me that. I thought it was like, get out, no way, you in a metalhead rock band? Nah, get out of here.
He had the hair down to here.
You showed me a picture. I think you showed me a picture. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had my heyday. I had my fun, and our band still does get together. Like our band from high school, we still try to get together at least twice a year and just scrape the cobwebs off and pull something together that doesn't just horrify ourselves.
Are you just the group's getting together? Or are you like booking a place, going out somewhere? That'd be great.
Dude, talk about a sales pitch. Booking us somewhere would be a tall order.
You should like create a Facebook page for the band and see how many old groupies you have out there.
Yeah, I'm sure there's at least a half of one. Yeah, there's got to be some.
So, all right, brother. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate this. This was great. I'll shoot you a text once I get it uploaded later today, and Really grateful for the time. I'll also let you know the details when I'm coming back there. So we'll definitely get together.
Yeah, this has been the best podcast interview I've ever done. So I appreciate it, Mike.
Good. I know you're out there working the circuit, brother.
All right.
Thanks. Appreciate all the support, man. Give Ron and the family our love. All right.
Will do. Looking forward to seeing you next month, man.
Me too. Thanks, buddy. Talk to you soon.
See ya.